My argument is this: inalienable rights exist only if God exists. Everyone in this room, I think, believes inalienable rights exist. Therefore, God exists. We get those derived rights, not because we've derived them, that dignity comes from it, not because we've derived them, but because they exist in virtue of a being higher than us. You see, they have to come from somewhere, and they can't come from us. So the source must be transcendent, it must be personal, because rights are a moral category, and morality has a root in personhood. Therefore, the source of our rights is transcendent and personal. Well, that's God. It's exactly what God is. And finally, being created equal. That's also a bedrock of this country. A bedrock, I think, of basic ideas of human rights. We are created equal. And I don't mean created in the sense that you have to believe, or I want you to believe at this moment, that we are created by God. I think that's true. But that we are created equal in the sense that we all have equality. If naturalism holds, if we are just a bag of chemicals on bones, if we are machines for propagating DNA, how is that possibly true? How is it possibly true that we're all equal? Because if physical is all there is, if the physical is all there is, then as a matter of just simple empiricism, we know some are taller, some are shorter, some are faster, some are slower, some are stronger, some are smarter, some are weaker, some have Down syndrome, some have other defects, spina bifida. They're not equal at all. How is that equality? In what way on physicalism or on naturalism is anyone equal to anybody else? In what way? Ontologically? Because you're a human being? Well, that is being called into question itself. In the Journal of Medical Ethics, Albert Giubellini and Francesca Minerva, two medical ethicists, have argued that newborn children, not preborn, I mean newborn children, should be able to be killed by their parents within a certain time after their birth because, quote, such children might be an unbearable burden on the family and on society as a whole when the state economically provides for the care. According to Giubellini and Minerva, such babies have value not intrinsic in and of themselves because they're human, but only insofar as they're not a burden. They go on to state, and they tell us, quote, a particular moral status can be attached to a non-person, like a newborn, by virtue of the value an actual person, the mother, attributes to it. Remember my definition of extrinsic value? Extrinsic value is the value you give to someone else because they serve a purpose for you. Well, what they have argued is exactly that babies have extrinsic value. Not because they're human beings they have value, but because they're not a burden or they're useful to us. That gives them value. That's not humanistic. That is not humanistic. With God, there is a deep fundamental equality to us in virtue of who and what we are. It is specific to us. We have value in the Christian worldview because we have a thumbprint on us. We have an image on us. We have the imago Dei, as it were. In Genesis, God says specifically, let us create man in our image, man and women in our image, in the image of God himself. The value giver puts his seal on humanity. The transcendent value giver gives value to humanity. Jesus modeled this specifically in John chapter 4. He comes to a place, it's Jacob's well, and there's a woman there, a Samaritan woman, a woman who is despised by Jews because of her ethnicity. John takes great pains to tell us this, that Samaritans are not valued by Jews, or they would have nothing to do with them, is what he says. This woman, with a checkered past, by the way, as you see the story unfold, comes to this well, and Jesus is there, and he deigns to talk to her. Now, he normally wouldn't talk to her. A single man an alone man at a well talking to a lone woman would be untoward, let alone a Samaritan woman. And she's amazed by this, that he even talks to her in the first place. And during the course of their discussion, she brings up ethnic issues about being a Samaritan, geographic issues, whose land is better and where should we worship, and whose expression of godliness is better. And then he goes, and in sexual morality and her sexual past. All this comes up, every single bit of it. So this woman of a despised ethnicity from a second-class gender in that time with a checkered sexual history comes to Jesus and he tells her, you can be redeemed because God values you. None of that stuff matters. It doesn't matter. Your value, your ethnicity is sacred. Your personhood is sacred because God values you and you can have that life as well. And she rushes back to her village and she changes everyone's mind. And the village of Samaritans in Sychar come and they spend days with Jesus, this Jew who they normally would have hated, because he breaks the barrier of racial, ethnic, and sexual and gender differences down by saying all that's valuable to God, but it does not prevent you. You're equal in God's eyes.